You're listening to For the Builders, a podcast designed to inspire, equip, and encourage those who build the church.
Corey, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you, Pastor Ben?
I'm great. This is exactly how we started off episode 1.
There we go.
I asked you how you were.
And
Still doing well?
Yeah,
Here we
well.
are, episode 2.
Yeah.
Of For the Builders, our new podcast, which is designed to inspire, equip, and encourage those who are engaged in the work of building the local church. And we love the local church, don't we?
So much.
And
We're all
today's
about
episode is exciting. I guess we should introduce ourselves.
Yeah.
My name is Ben. I'm the senior pastor of Cities Church. And you are?
Corey Peters. I'm the executive director and pastor of Cities Church Winnipeg.
That's right. And we have an exciting episode today because we're going to be talking about the 2-year anniversary of Cities Church Winnipeg.
Yes.
I'm going to be asking you to share some testimonies, tell some lessons learned from the journey, some moments of God's faithfulness. So it's going to be a great episode today. But I want to kick it off by talking about some of the things that have been happening here at Cities Church lately. And this podcast really is for our Cities Church family. We want our members to know what's going on in our church, in our churches, in our different cities. We want them to be inspired by some of the things that are going on that God is doing through our church and in our church. And we don't always have the time on Sunday mornings in different venues to talk about what God is doing in our church. This is really an opportunity.
That's right. Yeah. It's actually an exciting opportunity because of that. There's so many things you want to say on a Sunday or in a team meeting or any kind of gathering we have, but this is really an awesome time. Yeah. Just to talk about the movement, the mission, what's happening.
Yeah. And there have been some exciting things happening, even just in the first month of 2025. It's going to be an amazing year.
Yep.
But month 1 has already been amazing. And we're recording this at the end of January. And we started off 2025 with 5 days of prayer and fasting, which we call Presence and Power. We were fasting in Brandon. You guys were fasting in Winnipeg. You're praying. And I know for us, one of the big takeaways from that time of prayer and fasting was just we had incredible encounters with the Holy Spirit. We really felt His power and His presence. We prayed for people to be filled with the Spirit and to be speaking in tongues and prophesying. We got to experience a lot of that in our times of prayer and fasting and in our prayer meetings each evening. And man, it just got us really excited and really full of the Spirit for what's coming up next.
Yeah, it's so true. I was actually just talking to one of our church members last night, and she had just said how incredible the week was for her. We were praying, we were fasting, and she just came away with breakthrough in her life and just felt more of the presence of God in her life. But I agree, the other part of Presence and Power is we do continuous prayer. So,
yes, that's right.
Our church members are taking prayer slots continually throughout the whole week. So 24 5 days. That's what we did, right? And our church was just in both cities praying continuously. And so that was really awesome just to hear what God was speaking to each person in their prayer slot as they were reporting back what the Holy Spirit was speaking. And us too, just as the week went on, we were praying in our gatherings, and some of our young people were being filled by the Holy Spirit, speaking in other tongues, and just walking away with this really great hunger for God. So it's been an amazing start to the year.
Yeah, and that 24 hours of prayer, that continuous prayer we do has been pretty cool, actually. We started doing that last year, and it is amazing how you sense the presence of God, even in the building. For us that we do it here at the church. It's amazing how you feel the presence of God just increasing as that continuous prayer is rising up to heaven. It's pretty powerful. I'm looking forward to doing more of that. Some other things that have been going on is, I've had the opportunity to travel to a few different places in the month of January.
Around,
I've been globetrotting lately, and I love visiting other churches and seeing what God is doing. First week of January, I got the chance to be with Base Church in Waterloo with my good friends Brandon and Emma Richardson, doing an amazing work at Base Church. And they were doing 12 nights of hunger, so 12 nights of prayer and fasting and meeting together every single night to worship, to pray, and to hear from the Lord. And it was truly an amazing time. It was my first time at Base Church, and I love what God is doing there. I told them, I thought that we were hungry for revival because we're doing 5 days of prayer and fasting, but they're obviously much hungrier because they're doing 12 days of prayer and fasting.
Over double.
So hopefully we're going to get a little bit of what's happening over there will flow into us.
Totally.
But it's an amazing church. I love what God is doing there in Waterloo, and I hope to keep up with that story of what God is doing there. And then just actually recently I was at Rose Church with Pastor Mark and Pastor Roberta.
Let's go Rose.
And they're doing an amazing work. They're 4 years old in Winnipeg. And, God has just done amazing things through that church. When I was at Rose Church, there were 4 people being baptized on that Sunday.
Awesome.
And man, the testimonies were just awesome. It's so great to see the power of the gospel, whether it's in Brandon or Winnipeg or Waterloo or anywhere around the world. God is doing incredible things through his church. And that's what this podcast is all about. We're for the builders. We're building the church. But as we're building the church, Jesus is really building his church through us. It's just incredible to see those baptisms. And again, Rose Church is doing an amazing job in Winnipeg. And then I had also had the great opportunity to be at Jesus Culture Pastors Conference in California. And I'll tell you this, it was minus 30 something.
Yeah.
When I left. You drove me to the airport, actually.
It was so cold.
It was.
I was scolding you for not having a jacket.
Yeah, well, I was getting ready for California, but it was so cold. Your car didn't actually warm up till I think basically till we reached the airport. Yeah. I've never been so happy to leave this country. It was so cold, and then landing in sunny, beautiful California, I have to say, was a great experience.
Come on, yeah.
And Jesus Culture Pastors Conference was amazing. I think there's something like 700 pastors, not all lead pastors. Others were worship pastors, executive pastors, things like that. But 700 people or so were there. And it was amazing. Jesus awesome. Culture is known for their worship, and they did not disappoint in that area. But I personally just walked away so refreshed, filled with the Spirit, filled with ideas. I've never taken so many notes at anything that I've ever been at.
Wow.
And I felt it was really actually a providential time, because some of the breakout sessions, the speakers that were there were really talking about the kinds of things that we want to do here in Brandon and in Winnipeg with our movement. So it was a great time. A couple of highlights for me we're hearing from a guy named Mark Francie. And I don't know if you know Mark Francie. He's with Baptize America Oceans Church in Orange County. And amazing story. In 2023, he's spearheading this movement where in 2023, they had all these churches in Southern California get together and do baptisms on the same day.
Wow.
And in 2023, all these churches in Southern California baptized 4,200 people.
Wow.
On one day. Yeah, in 2023.
Wow.
And then in 2024, they did baptize California. So now it was statewide.
Oh, amazing.
And they baptized 12,000 people.
Wow.
And now in 2025, they're doing Baptize America. And they're going to, I don't know what the estimates are, but I would say it's going to be well over 50,000 people being baptized in the same day. So
that's awesome.
Just incredible things that are happening there. And it's always refreshing to hear from somebody who's got a bigger vision than you. It's good to be made to feel small every once in a while so that, get out of your comfort zone and trust God in greater ways. So
amazing.
Man, it's been a busy month.
Yeah. It's been so full and fulfilling.
And also first episode of For the Builders, we were talking about our Cities Church Regina prayer meeting,
right?
Which we actually did on January, I think it's the 12th. I think I'm forgetting what date it was. I believe it was the 12th.
Sounds right.
And we had 20 something of our team members drive out to Regina. We did an amazing prayer meeting at St. Mary's Anglican Church there. Right. The church is over 100 years old. That was pretty amazing.
It's a beautiful place.
Praying in that place. Yeah. What were some of your highlights from that trip?
Well, it was just great to share with our church on Sunday morning in Winnipeg about the Regina prayer meeting happening that evening. Our church was really excited about that, of course. And then just having a couple of my team members hop in the car with us was great. Some guys that really have never had a church planting experience before. So they hopped in the car, and this is their first exposure to church planting in Saskatchewan, Canada, right? Which is pretty amazing. So it was just great to spend time together with the team. And of course, the prayer meeting was great.
It was powerful.
It was powerful. It was just, it felt like it wasn't hard for us to get into prayer. It just felt like things were like God had just gone before us and just prepared us for the evening. And we prayed some great prayers, and just amazing hearing the things that some of the young people that came along were prophesying and speaking out and praying. So no doubt God has amazing things in store for Regina.
Here's the thing, just before I move on, I think you and I should stop saying young people, because, when we say young people,
I regret it already.
We are immediately saying that we're not young people.
Right.
Only old people refer to younger people as young people.
You're right.
I would just, I mean, obviously,
I'm deleting it from the record.
We're not young people. We're not. I mean, that's reality. But we don't want to, I don't want to close the door just yet. That's
You're right, Pastor. You're right. So what do we call them?
Just people.
Yeah.
I think they're people. We're people. We're all part of the same people group. We're all young together.
I won't say their age, but some of the people at the prayer meeting.
Young. The attendees of the prayer meeting.
Yeah.
Galatians 3. What does it say? In Christ is neither, Jew nor Gentile, male nor female, slave nor free, young nor old. I'm adding that one in there. It's not actually in the Bible, but and it was a great prayer meeting, and our young adults did really encourage us with their faith and their boldness and what the Lord was speaking through them. So we were excited for Regina, and our next step with that is to have another prayer meeting happening in March. So by the time the next episode 3 comes out, we'll know our dates and we'll be able to let people know.
Amazing.
What's going on.
Did you have a highlight from the meeting?
I think the whole thing was a highlight. I was remembering, and I mentioned it at the prayer meeting, every church plant we have starts off with people from another city driving to another city.
Right.
So, we started off Cities Church in Brandon. We started off by myself and some young people driving from Winnipeg to Brandon to pray. We did that for months. And that's how this church got started. And for you in Winnipeg, you and I were driving out from Brandon to Winnipeg and praying there. We did that for months. And all of a sudden now we're in Regina, we're doing the same thing. We've got Winnipeggers and Brandonites, and we're jumping in the car and we're praying and we're driving out there to pray. So it's just kind of cool seeing how history is repeating itself.
Totally.
So lots of good highlights. It feels good to be in Regina. It feels like a place that our church belongs. And so that was encouraging, just feeling the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And it feels like God is doing something in that city and that we need to be part of it. So pretty exciting. But today we are talking about Cities Church Winnipeg because February 2nd, which by the time this episode comes up, it'll have happened already.
Yeah.
But you're celebrating 2 years of Cities Church in Winnipeg. You launched 2 years ago, January 22nd.
Yeah.
I remember that launch service. I was there. It was awesome. And so I want to talk to you today and just ask you to share with us some testimonies. I want to ask you to share with us some stories of God's faithfulness. And then I want to ask you to share with us just a couple of lessons that you've taken away from the church planting journey. It's episode 2. You're turning 2. So I want 2 testimonies. I want 2 stories of God's faithfulness. I want 2 lessons learned. It's all about the 2s.
It's Tuesday.
It is, and it is Tuesday. That's true.
Let's do it.
Great. So why don't you start off? Just share with us a couple of stories about life change that you've seen happen in Winnipeg.
Yeah. Hey, what God's doing in Winnipeg is incredible, and it's hard to envision or know what to expect when you're going into a new city. You really don't have people there or a team there or a building there. And 2 years later, you're looking back and you're just basking in God's faithfulness. Yeah. And so when I think about that and maybe even some of the stories of life transformation, there's been many like lives that have been transformed, and people have put their faith and their trust in Jesus. They're walking out their discipleship. One of the stories that really sticks out to me is about one of our team members named Vidi. And Vidi is a young lady from Botswana. Her family immigrated there from India. And her sister, her older sister, actually immigrated over to Canada as international students. And so that happened in the last 4 to 5 years. And long story short, her older sister ended up hearing the gospel from a guy who ended up, I think, actually, being her boyfriend.
Oh.
And so there's a bit of a love story thing happening here.
All right.
But she heard the gospel from him, and he actually ended up leading her older sister to Christ. And so from that point on, Janie, her older sister, started just sharing the gospel with Vidi. So what ended up happening is they were looking for a church, and someone had recommended that Janie check out Cities Church Winnipeg. We had just launched recently, and so she checked it out. She came out one Sunday, and we met, and it was great. I think she loved it, and then she started telling us about her younger sister, who wasn't a believer yet. Yeah, and so she continued to share the gospel with her. But we were praying with her, just that God would speak to her younger sister and just draw her to the Lord. And actually the first time that Vidi attended a event at Cities Church was for, I believe it was a Wednesday night prayer meeting that we were having. And I remember seeing Vidi there. She was just like this, young person, just really kind of out of her elements, didn't really know what to expect. But she was just sitting there the whole night, just observing everything, just looking at all the people and kind of thinking about what's going on. And I didn't mention this, but both, Janie and Vidhi come from a Hindu background. So they're raised in that religion, and that's what they practice as a family. So this world of Christianity, of the gospel of Jesus, is something entirely different, right? It's completely foreign. Anyways, she came and she left that night. Nothing really happened that, I saw that was, physical. But shortly afterwards, between her and Janie, Janie ended up leading her to Christ. She put her faith in Jesus and started coming to church. And eventually for herself, she actually really heard from Jesus herself. She had an encounter with Jesus in a dream that was really significant to her. And basically from that point, she just started serving. She started reading her Bible. She started praying. She just started really going after Jesus. You could tell like something had really changed in her. And so it's just been amazing to see the transformation both in Janie and Vidhi over the years, a couple short years, right? And the amazing part is, I mentioned, they come from a Hindu background. So just recently, this last summer, they both went home to Botswana to share with their parents that they had made the decision to follow Christ.
Right.
Now, for me, this is, when they first told me this, I'm like, oh yeah, well, that's great. They're going to be so happy for you. And they're like, no, you don't understand. Like, it's not accepted where we're from. Obviously, I don't think my father's going to be happy. I don't think my mother's going to be happy. In fact, in the culture, parents often threaten to hurt themselves or even, commit suicide or things like that because of decisions like this from their children. And so it was a really big deal. It required a lot of prayer. They were praying, they were fasting, and so we prayed with them, sent them off, and they had the opportunity to share their decision with their parents. And thank God, they actually, it took a little time, but they accepted the decision, and they're talking more openly with them now about the gospel. And so when I hear about Vidhi or think about Vidhi, it's like, it's amazing to think that God is literally starting something totally brand new in this family. Yeah. Her family's about to be transformed and changed for generations after generations after generations. Yeah. And today, Vidhi's doing great. She's in university. She's serving on the team. She's leading in capacities on the team. Yeah. She's actually on a part-time staff position in Cities Church Winnipeg.
Your first staff member, right?
First staff member. Wow. She's a great administrator, a great help with me. Yeah. And so it's just amazing, to experience her story.
And there's something about new churches that draws people who don't know Jesus to them. It's, if you look at the studies about evangelism in North America, really around the world, it's new churches have such an impact in evangelism. People tend to go to new churches. There's a greater zeal for reaching out because you're starting a new church. And it's amazing to see Vidhi's story. And obviously I know Vidhi, and I spent some time with her, and it is absolutely incredible. And of course, when you have somebody who's grown up in a totally different religion, there are other things going on, but God is faithful. The gospel is powerful. He uses his church, and man, what an amazing story.
Yeah. Another one that comes to mind is about a woman her name is Nikki. And Nikki is from China. She's also a international student here in Canada. She came recently, just in the last year, to Winnipeg. She's just a wonderful person. So back in summer, we hosted a neighborhood block party. It was our first neighborhood block party at Cities Church. So we blocked off the parking lot after church on Sunday. We set up kind of a carnival feel and had a bunch of stuff for the kids and families. And before the block party, we had the teams go out and hand out door hangers and just knock on doors, invite the neighborhood out to the party on Sunday. One of our team members ended up putting a door hanger on Nikki's door. And she ended up coming out to church for the event, I believe, and came out to church. And Nikki is someone who, she hasn't been to church before. She's not a church person, not a Christian, but someone had told her about church back home in China.
Okay.
And so it had kind of stuck with her in her mind, like
someone who planted the seed.
The seed, yeah. Wow. And so it was just amazing because when she saw the door hanger, she was like, I got to do this. I got to I just got to go to Cities Church. And so she came out, and so that was this past summer, and she's been coming every single week. She comes to church. She got involved with a life group right away. And I just heard how, the other ladies in her life group are really helping her just to understand the Bible. And again, this is someone, she doesn't know anything about Christianity, doesn't know anything about the Bible, nothing about the gospel. And today, she's a believer in Jesus. She's a worshiper of God. She's filled with this joy and this happiness she hasn't ever experienced before. If you ask her that right now today, she'll tell you that. She's serving on our serve team. She's learning new things. She just joined the media team about a month ago. She doesn't know anything about media, but she just wants to serve Jesus. She wants to learn. And she's just just a wonderful person that God has drawn into his family, right? Through the gospel. And so it's just amazing to see. She's got family members who are going to be coming to Canada very soon. And so I know that's going to have a significant impact on their lives as well. And can't wait to meet them and share the gospel with them as well. So, just
the
amazing
power of the
times.
Gospel,
amazing.
The goodness of God. It never fails to amaze me. It truly just never fails to amaze me. Here's this woman, she's Chinese, has nothing in common with you.
Yeah.
Literally nothing in common. Different country, different culture. But the word of God says, one plants, one waters, and God gives the increase. Right. And so whoever this person is in China mentioned church, and we don't even know in what context or how, but God uses that seed. And the story you just shared is just incredible. She finds Jesus in your church.
Yeah.
And you and I talk about it often. What would happen to all these people who were searching? I think about Dylan. I think about some of the great guys I've met in your church, Brendan and Connell, all these just awesome guys, Louise, right? Who have callings on their life, and God's going to use them to do incredible things. But what would happen if you weren't there, if Cities Church wasn't there, if somebody wasn't there sharing the gospel, building the church? This is why we build the church, is exactly for stories like that. Totally. And I know there's so many more stories you could share because I've been in Cities Church Winnipeg, and I will be with you this weekend celebrating the second year anniversary of Cities Church in Winnipeg.
So excited.
I'm excited to come preach and encourage you guys and what God is doing. What are some evidences or examples of God's faithfulness? When you plant a church, you're doing it. I've done it, about to do it again.
Yeah.
Somebody recently called me a madman for planting his church a second time. So
are you mad?
So we'll see how that goes. But when you plant a church, there's this extreme dependence on the faithfulness of God. It's I think we can say it's hard work, but a lot of things are hard work. What's different about church is it's something that God makes happen. You can't work hard enough to build a great church.
Yeah.
Because you need the grace of God because it's his church.
Totally.
So you can work hard and still not succeed in building the church. It has to be God. It has to be his faithfulness day after day, week after week. And what I love about church planting is you get to see the hand of God right there.
Totally.
On a I would say probably a daily basis in your life and in the life of the church. So can you share with us just a couple of stories of God's faithfulness to the church?
Yeah, you're so true. Just when you were talking about that, it reminds me, we live in Canada, so our lakes, they freeze over in the wintertime. And there's a certain point when you go on the lake and a certain point when you get off of it. When the ice is thin, you get off, right? And it feels like when you're starting a church plant, it feels like you're walking on thin ice. Like you're like step by step. Totally. It just requires you got to kind of prod and see if it's safe, if it's sturdy. You got to trust. You got to you're constantly on edge, right? In some sense. So it really does require trusting in God and just remembering God is faithful. If he's called you to it, he'll make a way. But it doesn't necessarily guarantee that it's going to feel easy the whole way along. And so I think one of the amazing things that stuck out to me about the Winnipeg process is it felt like right away we kind of saw God's faithfulness in just the place where we met at Elam Chapel.
Right.
So, when you and I started going out to Winnipeg to pray about planting the church, we were knocking on all kinds of doors just for a place to pray in, right? Yeah. And I remember when I called Elam Chapel and asked them, hey, can we just come have a place? We're looking for a place to pray, to worship. Would you have a space for us, right? And they instantly, it just felt like they basically said yes over the phone, even before they met me. And I thought, that's kind of weird because we're getting a lot of rejection here, maybe from other places or places that won't really align with what we're looking for.
Right.
And this felt so easy. So anyways, I felt like Elam Chapel has just been a great partner with us to help us in the plant process. And we basically have a church planter's dream. Like,
yes, you do.
We have, just for context, if you're not part of Cities Church, we meet in a already established church building. They've been around for 100 years, I think. And they have a completely separate multi-purpose room space that seats about 200 people that we get to use every Sunday. It's apart from their sanctuary. We have our own kids space in the building where our kids get to do our team does kids ministry while they have their own kids wing in the building. And so we have our office space there. It's right across from the University of Winnipeg, downtown in a neighborhood.
It's got parking.
It's got it's a church planter's dream. We don't really have portable church. We don't do a complete haul-in set up like we did here in Brandon, right? So it's just completely... Our team doesn't understand how good they have it, right?
It absolutely is a church planter's dream. And finding a venue, any church planter will tell you, finding a venue is the first big thing.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a place to meet or a good enough place to meet, an adequate place to meet, it's game over.
It makes it that much more challenging, right?
Yeah, and any church planting manual will tell you the first thing you got to do when you move to a new city is you got to find a venue. Yeah. That's number one.
Yeah.
So the fact that Elam Chapel, that connection with Elam Chapel just worked out is unbelievable. I mean, I joke all the time, and whenever I come to visit you in Winnipeg, you've got a better building than I have. Your office is bigger, like a big, beautiful floor to ceiling windows.
Window, right? Yeah.
You've got you got your own kids wing in an existing church. You got a fabulous auditorium to do church in. So yes, it's hard to think of something that's actually a bigger evidence of God's faithfulness than the venue. A lot of church, when we here in Brandon, we've struggled with venues for years before we purchased our own building by God's grace. So it is amazing. And for any of our listeners who haven't been to Cities Church Winnipeg, they need to come visit.
Sure,
and see what God has done there. You got a great building. You got your office in the same place. You've got parking. It's right across from a huge mission field, the University of Winnipeg, which we are very intent on evangelizing and reaching out to and to growing in our influence on that campus. So it really has been awesome.
Yeah, and we've got. I just told you that I met up with Elam's leadership just recently, and what's evident is we have a great relationship.
Yeah,
like we've been there now for a couple of years, and we've been building relationship. We're even talking about what can we do to partner more together, right? It's just something you don't hear about often. Often, if a few church groups are in the same building, there might be more squabbles than there is good relationships. So it's just awesome to experience that. And I think too, for this, what I want to say is, and I haven't been able to say that enough to our Brandon family, is, God's faithfulness was definitely shown through how Brandon sent us out. Brandon sent us out with some money to plant. Brandon sent us out with a bunch of equipment because at the time there was a bunch of portable equipment that we weren't using in Brandon. We were able to bring and use in Winnipeg, and so we had the place to meet in. And Brandon's just faithfulness to send us out with some resources really helped. I believe it really helped Olga and I to just plant that much quicker and in the place that we could. And I think I've seen God's faithfulness through that. And right away, it spoke to our team in Winnipeg as we started developing a team. I say, okay, well, this isn't just some kind of like loosey-goosey idea from some people that just showed up in our city. No, it's like there's even a church in another city that's backing them and wants to see us go the full way. And so I think that was a really cool part of our story, is just to experience, okay, it wasn't just a fresh startup, but we're in some ways sent out by our church. And you don't always know what to expect, but from day one, God has allowed us to be a self-sufficient church.
Right.
And, it's not something I really have a lot of experience with, is going out and fundraising and raising up donors and givers and partners. And any church planter knows it's hard to cast vision and have people buy in pre-launch and start tithing and giving and seeding into that. But God did that. every month.
And that was
year.
our goal when we sent you out. We wanted it to be a self-sufficient church. And from day one, that's exactly what has happened.
Yeah.
And God's faithfulness was definitely evident as you're going through that process. I think what you're saying here today and what you're sharing is really our heart, is that we want to be a church planting church.
Right.
I think that we want to plant so many more churches across our nation. And I think that the strategy that God is giving us, that I think is going to be really powerful, especially as more churches partner together, is churches planting churches.
Yeah. Right.
Not waiting for a denomination to do it, not waiting for a network to do it, but just saying, hey, as a church, let's plant more churches.
Right.
Let's raise up people who want to plant churches. And that's exactly your story. We talked about it a little bit in episode 1 about your story getting into the ministry. But it's amazing to see how, as we've sent you out, God has provided for you. God has built your church. You're actually, Cities Church Winnipeg encourages Cities Church Brandon in a number of ways. We share the testimonies of what's going on in Winnipeg. We share them in Brandon and vice versa.
Right.
And it truly has been an amazing thing, which really gets me excited for Regina and for the church plans to come. I want to ask you in just a couple of minutes, I want to talk with you about what we're excited about for Cities Church Winnipeg in the next couple of years as we celebrate the 2nd anniversary. But first, I want to ask you, are there any lessons that you've learned, just leadership lessons, life lessons that you can share with us from the last couple of years of Cities Church Winnipeg?
Yeah, it's a good question. Definitely many, many lessons learned. Still in the progress of learning, of course. I think for me, something that stands out is, for something like this, you've got to have some coaches or some mentors in your life to help you along. Like, I can't imagine, Pastor Ben, you've been an incredible coach to me throughout this whole process. And this story is our story, so I don't know this any other way without you being in my life, right? But I couldn't imagine going into Winnipeg without a Pastor Ben in my life. Just someone who's gone out, who's done it before, really knows what to kind of expect and kind of what steps to take and what's practical and what isn't, and even how to pray, what to pray for, some of those things. So I think just, having wise counsel around you, having a few people who can believe in you when you don't believe in yourself, who can encourage you when you need encouragement, who can correct you when you're, off course or off track or whatever it is. That has been such a blessing to Cities Church Winnipeg, to me, to our team. And I think that for anybody who's looking to lead in any capacity, you've got to get people in your life who you can go to, who can speak into you and mentor you and coach you, right? Yeah. And so that's been just a constant reminder. Sometimes, pride rises up. And I think that I have a good way or a good method or whatnot, but it's just so evident to me that God is very intentional and very purposeful about that he won't allow you to actually move ahead or to move forward without oversight in your life. And so good. I think that's been really impactful for me. There's obviously so many places in the Bible where, mentors or coaches or fathers in the faith, right, are leading the next generation and that kind of thing. So that's been incredible.
So good. And
the other thing that I think sticks out to me, I think as a leader, you have to find ways to encourage yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm learning how to lead teams, and I'm learning how to lead in my marriage, right? As a pastor now, as a couple who's, planting a church, and I'm learning how to hear from God, to receive vision, to lead something out that hasn't been done before, in a place that hasn't been, so it really does require the intentionality of like learning how to strengthen yourself in the Lord, learning how to encourage yourself in the Word of God and in prayer. And prayer is like, it's the secret sauce to everything.
Yeah,
prayer
absolutely.
is, again, I've just learned, there's been weeks where, I kind of lagged on my prayer life, and I thought, okay, maybe systems or this or that is more important right now than me focusing on prayer. But, prayer has really been the anchor. It's been the go back to something to just hear from God and know exactly what to do on the day to day, but be confident in it, right? And be encouraged in it. Leaders feel isolated. Leaders feel lonely. It doesn't matter even if you have great people in your life. Like I could call you day or night, right?
Right.
You'll answer the phone most of the time, sure. But you'll answer the phone. You'll help me out. But I can still feel lonely or isolated or I can have all kinds of doubts or thoughts try and creep up through my life, my mind, right? But just going to prayer, going to God, learning how to develop that, I think that's been incredible just for my walk and in the role, the calling that God has given me.
Oh, that's huge. I think we all need to learn that skill of self-encouragement by going to God.
Yeah.
That's the famous passage. It says David encouraged himself in the Lord.
Yeah.
And sometimes there are just some things that you just have to go to God to get. You're not going to get anywhere else. And church planting is that way. You're in a different city. You got your own context. You got your own challenges. Yes, you can call me. Yes, I can help. Yes, I can provide insight and leadership and experience and wisdom. But at the end of the day, you are the one on the ground who's leading and building the church in that city. And I actually think that's one of the things I love about being on mission with Jesus is you get to know him in a different way.
Yeah.
You get to know him as your faithful God. Hey, well, I want to talk to you just as we have a few more minutes here left in our podcast about what we're excited about for Cities Church Winnipeg. And we do have a few things that are happening this year that are a bit different that we've never done before. One, we're doing life courses. We're kicking that up in Winnipeg this year. I'm excited about that. We're doing it here in Brandon. We've talked about this. So both Brandon and Winnipeg, helping people get equipped in their finances, helping people get equipped in their marriage. We've got a Greater Marriage Conference, one-day conference coming up here in a couple of weeks, which if you're listening and you're not registered for Greater Marriage, you need to get registered for Greater Marriage. And what we really want to do, both in Winnipeg and Brandon, but specifically in Winnipeg, as you move into this next phase, you're not quite a baby church anymore. You're kind of like a toddler church. You're like my kids. You're learning how to walk. You're learning how to speak. You're learning how to go to that next level. So we're doing life courses. The other thing we're excited about is raising up some more pastoral leaders in your church. And you've got some great men, some great women that can come alongside of you and help you to really lead the church in a pastoral capacity. So we're excited about that. And some other things we can't talk about yet because they're not public, but we do have some really exciting things happening. And it's so awesome to see the potential growth that is about to happen here in Winnipeg. So I'm excited to join you guys in this weekend, actually, to be part of your celebration and to preach. We truly believe God's going to do amazing things. Is there something that you're particularly excited or looking forward to in the next year as you approach your 3rd anniversary?
Yeah, I think I'm excited about quite a few things, honestly. I feel very optimistic. I feel hopeful. But I'm really excited about our university evangelism. I think that we've got just an incredible opportunity to reach thousands of students across the street from where we are. And we're praying. I can see in our church there's definitely a hunger, a desire to hear from God on what that strategy is going to be. And we're already there. We're doing different things. We're trying different things. We have a active student group recognized by the university on campus. We've got some incredible kind of breakthroughs already that actually what I've heard hasn't always been accepted or easy to do. So it feels like God is just providing grace to us for that particular evangelism and ministry. So I'm excited to see
about that too.
Hundreds of students evangelize and come to Christ. We want to do whatever we can do. If we have to start a pizza fund, let's start a pizza fund, right? But believe it or not, students are saved with pizza, man. But that's going to be incredible. Yeah, we've got life courses coming up, and I'm excited about getting into teaching some of our leaders and equipping our leaders in theology and doctrine, and going down that road, and just seeing the growth. I want to live in the days of Acts. They're not over, right? And just seeing the church grow day by day, people coming to Christ, and I just believe we'll see that this year. God has given us a great launch pad, a great foundation. We're building a great foundation, and just to see, okay, well, what we have a lot of the ingredients now, right, that we need for a great church. So let's go for it.
You're right. It's so good. Hey, well, thank you so much for sharing about Cities Church Winnipeg. Great to hear what God is doing there. Exciting things happening. And I also want to thank our listeners. We had, according to YouTube, we had 90 people viewing our first episode on YouTube, which we're grateful for. And for those of you that are listening, thank you so much for joining in episode 2 of For the Builders. We really hope that this has helped you and inspired you. And if it has, Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And wherever you are, we hope that you join Jesus in his work of building the church.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Cities Church Canada and subscribe to our podcast channel so you never miss an episode.